Hi, everyone. It's Adrian from Stand Up for Lower Merion and Annie, my co-founder. We're here and we're going to give you a little lesson in how to primary election. But first, I kind of wanted to let you know how we got to this. In 2017, a friend of mine texted me and told me I should run for school board to stand up for kids with special needs and to help with diversity. Little did I know the path that it would lead me down. As I begrudgingly accepted, she really had to talk me into it. I became involved in a process that I knew little about, and as I learned more, was not happy with. The insiders and incumbents had a serious advantage in knowing the system. I saw excellent potential candidates ignored and dismissed. I, of course, didn't get the party endorsement, but ran anyway, coming in fifth in a field of 9. The top 4 candidates who were endorsed proceeded to the general election. They were the incumbents. Well, I was relieved I didn't win. I was really relieved I didn't win. I knew the system had to change. So the next year I ran and won the position of committee person. It wasn't a tough election. I wasn't against anyone. So my goals became to make the process better, inform others about the process, and hope to get them involved. While Stand Up for Lower Merion and Narberth is nonpartisan, we can see what's in front of us and both parties need to change. So I am going to share my screen and give you a little lesson in how to primary. And I guess I should start at the beginning. All right, how to primary election. First, you have to figure out if you're registered to vote. I'm a judge of elections, and I find every time it's an election, especially a primary, somebody comes in who is not registered as either a Democrat or Republican. So if there's no questions on the ballot, they can't vote. And you can check your registration process here, a registration status here. And this is a really great site. You put in your driver's license, or you can do it by name, and it gives you, if you're registered, your polling location, the party you're registered with, and whether you applied for a mail-in ballot, and so on. So here are the important election dates. The last day to register for the primary is this coming next Tuesday, the 10th. Can you guys see that? Because like May 10th is cut off because I see people on the side. So can you guys see the whole thing?
I can see May 2nd.
May
Same.
2nd, which is the last day to register. May 10th is, of course, the last day to apply for a mail-in or civilian absentee ballot. And the primary election and last day for mail-in ballots to be received is Tuesday, May 17th. Now, this is important if you have applied for a mail-in ballot to get it to the Board of Elections by Tuesday, election day. So that election day is only election day. So the what and why of PA primaries. There are elections twice a year every year in Pennsylvania. A lot of people think that there's only elections every 4 years for president. That is not true. The primary is in May, except for presidential election years. It's in April, and the general election is in November. In Pennsylvania, we have closed primaries. Only registered voters in the major parties vote for their candidates. An exception to closed primaries is if there's ballot questions amending PA Constitution, those are open to all registered voters. And committee people elected during this primary and are appointed of the major political parties make endorsements to suggest how members of their party should vote. Endorsements are the party's choice and not necessarily the best choice. And there's 100 reasons why voting in the primary is important. When you vote in the primary, you're more likely to vote in the general election because it reminds you that there's an election this year. When you vote in every election, you're fulfilling your civic responsibility, and it becomes easier because it becomes a habit. With fewer people voting, your vote carries more weight. Only about 18 to 20% of registered voters vote in the primary. So your vote and getting out there carries more weight. And primary voters are generally more partisan than general election voters, which is how fringe candidates wind up on the ballot in the general election. More primary voters can mitigate this. Open primaries would help too. Open primaries are when everybody can vote for the candidates, even people who are not registered for the major parties. And that would help people who are independents, who are generally more middle of the road, have a say. And you then wind up with candidates that are more middle of the road and less fringe or less radical. And another thing for diversity, since primary voters are generally older and whiter, they're not really representative of the full voting population. More of it, people voting in the primaries means that one segment of the population isn't calling all the shots. Voter turnout at the primary helps determine where campaigns and parties will put more or less of their effort in the general election. So if you live in a community that doesn't come out in the primary, you're kind of going to be more ignored. Your community is going to be more ignored. And that's important for your civic responsibility to get that attention that your community could want or need. And even if your favorite candidate loses the primary, if he or she made a good turnout, there's a good chance the winning candidate will adopt some of their platform to appeal to a broader group of people, of voters. And that's really important. So it's not necessarily as much winning or losing, it's getting the ideas of your candidate out there. Primaries can feature ballot measures, we did that. Voting in the primary is a civic responsibility and one part of being in a participatory democracy. It's your right, it's your voice, use it. So on the primary, there's governor, lieutenant governor. Interestingly, the lieutenant governor only runs separately in the primary. The winner of the governor's and lieutenant governor's primaries then runs as a team in the general election. I thought that's like an interesting little tidbit. We have a senator running this race for senator. That's a 6-year term. Your congressperson is a 2-year term. Your assembly, all the state representatives run, they are 2-year terms. And the state senators in even numbered districts. We're in Senate District 17, so we don't have a race then. And state and local committee people, this is the election. The interesting thing about that is because if they are party elections, the only election is the primary because they're not running against somebody from another party in the general. So their one election is right now. Redistricting happened. Lower Merion, here we are in this little map here, is divided now into 2 assembly districts. They are also divided for the congressional districts into two districts, the 5th and the 4th. The 5th goes into Delaware County, and the 4th now goes all the way up to Berks County. It's kind of crazy. So you may have a different congressperson or state rep on your ballot. It used to be Lower Merion and Narberth were divided into 4 different assembly districts. Now it's only 2. So how did this happen? The census was done, so they redrew districts. And again, another thing you can find out at that voter status part at the PA Department of State is what district you're in. And if your district changed, your current rep is still your rep until after for the rest of the year. Why are state and local committee people important? They do all this stuff. And if you have people on the committee who think that we only should do stuff because that's the way we've always done it and don't want to progress, they help shape the culture and the values of your political committee. And if you want a committee that's more progressive or more conservative or whatever, it's your committee people that are going to determine that. So they do a lot of things. They, of course, elect the officers for your local committee. They endorse candidates at the county and local level. They approve the bylaws and procedures. And they hopefully create a sense of community around values and legislation. So some of the things I want to say are when these, so I gave you my story about how I wasn't endorsed in the primary. But in Lower Merion and Narberth, since the Democratic Party is the majority party, the primary is basically the election. So when the party picks candidates in the primary, they're basically picking the candidates who are going to win. So my personal opinion is this is terrible. It's anti-democratic and it needs to change. So that's why your committee people are really important. If you're interested, and I've piqued your interest, you can still run as a write-in candidate, because whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it's up to you to make your party better. And even if you don't want to make a commitment to be a committee person, you can still get involved. You can volunteer for subcommittees. You will not get a vote, but making your voice heard can still lead to change. It is a marathon, not a sprint. And be patient. And so what does your ballot look like? I'm going to stop the share right now. And well, first I'll do, to find out more about candidates except committee people, go to vote411.org. That's the nonpartisan League of Women Voters site. And we're going to do a new share for a second. And I'm here at that voter services site in Montgomery County. And Abby, do you know what precinct you're in?
Sorry, I know I'm in Ward 13.
Okay, so let's go there and just pick that. All right. Can you see? So this is what your ballot is going to look like. The senators there, governor, lieutenant governor, representative in the 4th district, and representative in the 148th district, which is Mary Jo Daley. So you only have the people that are in the party you're registered in. These are the members of this Democratic State Committee. You're supposed to vote for 9 men and 9 women. or 9 males, 9 females, and 1 of either gender. The county committee picked these people. They interviewed them and they picked them. There's nobody extra running. You don't have a choice. This is some of the things that I'm trying to stop.
So can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So these people who are listed here that have been interviewed and chosen sort of internally, do they who are they? Like, why do they get chosen? Because I don't know any of these names personally. I'm just curious, like, who they are.
I am not sure who all these people are. I am going to be reaching out to Joe Foster, who is chair, to give a little bio on each of the people.
Okay.
Okay, I know some of them. I know Taria is leading the new Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for Monco.
Okay.
And I know a couple other names in here, but as far as their bios, I don't really know them either.
Okay.
On the other page, here are your 2 Democratic committee people that are running. So if you would decide to write, you would go to that precinct that day with a whole bunch of flyers, hand them out to people, tell them why you would make a great Democratic committee person, and ask them to write your name in. And that would really be all that's involved in that. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to new share. I just learned this today that I don't have to get completely out of it. So we did this. The bottom line is make a plan. Let me do it bigger. That's the bottom line. Make a plan and vote on May 17th. By mail or in person, it doesn't matter. Just do it. And check out the candidates again at vote411.org. The end. So what do you want America to look like? Get involved. For more election information, I did the voter guide for NAACP, and that is on their website, which is here. So thank you for listening. And any questions?
I learned so much from that. And I know so much about voting.
Thank you.
I have to say I'm a bit impressed. I was like, I didn't know that. What? I didn't know that. I was like, okay, this is just review for me because, I know all these things. And then I was like, what? I didn't know that. Wow, Adrian's the shit.
This is being recorded.
I have some questions that I don't know if this is. I'm just going to ask them because I am a stay-at-home parent who has no real experience or really knowledge about politics. I'll be really honest.
That's why I do this, Abby. This is why
I really
we do
appreciate
this.
that.
Go ahead.
So basically my main questions are, so I'm not really interested in being in politics per se. I'm just kind of educating myself, but how do these rules change? Is it like, is there some kind of, does it get brought to the committee or the current people in power as like a community concern, and then enough people kind of echo that concern and then they vote on how to change some of this? How does it work?
Okay, so it actually depends on what you want to change. If you want to change a law, then you kind of have to go to your representatives. If you want to change a procedure on how the candidates are chosen, or what things we want the candidates to focus on, then that's more through the party. So what you can do, you don't want to get involved, but do you know who your committee people are?
So my commissioner is it's my neighbor across the street. Her name is Gilda Kramer. So I know
Right.
I have, kind of access to her.
Okay, so your committee people are Gilda. She's also your committee person, and Linda Tasker are your two committee people. And Gilda is really powerful in the party.
Okay.
So if you have, she's also a vice chair in the party. I think some of these things are a little bit conflict of interesty, but it's not that terrible.
Okay.
All right. So she would be a really good person to talk to if you have concerns.
Okay.
So you get like a 2-for-1 as your committee person and as your commissioner.
And my neighbor. So I
And your
just go across
neighbor.
the street. Yeah. Because one of the questions that I have and is just regarding accountability for certain things. And I know that that's, you can run on a platform and not necessarily have to deliver on the platform, but I'm just kind of curious what kind of accountability can be held in place wonderful. If there are, if it kind of seems like there's really a non-competitive
Nature.
culture. Yeah.
So that is why I am trying to fight against endorsements in the primary. So you can kind of let her know that
Yeah.
you're interested in full day kindergarten. And a candidate ran on that. That was a Shana Kalish ran on
Right.
that, but she hasn't been able to pull that through. And you want to make sure at the next election, which is next year, when I think it's 4 or 5, I've got my years mixed up, candidates are rerunning for school board, that those candidates will make full day kindergarten a priority. And if they're just going to endorse who's ever there without regards to that, then that doesn't suit your needs.
Right. That's what I was exactly kind of what I was asking, where I was going with that, because
Yeah.
yeah. And then I know this is on a pretty I know there's a lot going on with the school board, so I wasn't sure how to
And
navigate
I
that.
will say the school board is evolving in a positive direction. The fact that my big beef with them is not having those subcommittee meetings open to the public. Not having the public be able to access them unless they can get there at 8:30 in the morning.
Right.
You can watch them, but you can't comment on them, which is ridiculous. So,
Right.
so we need more. So that's another thing that,
Transparency and right.
yeah, that would be a good thing for you to mention.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I wanted to give Abby some encouragement. Um, if somebody is elected and they ran on an issue specifically, you deserve an answer. Okay? Now, I'm not saying you have to badger them, but if they ran on that and that's not been accomplished or you haven't had any movement on that, you deserve an answer. And if they give you an answer and they say this is the problem, then either they're going to help you with it or they're going to guide you on how to fix the problem. You deserve a solution or some steps towards the solution. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Telling you that it can't be done is not acceptable.
Right.
And if they tell you they can't do it after they ran on it, That's not okay. Okay. Now,
Okay.
sometimes,
Kimberly,
some,
I'm gonna add this in.
go ahead.
We had Shayna come
I've
to
watched.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you saw part of the problems, you know, and they made it seem like when they opened the new school, there'd be room. Now all of a sudden there's not room,
Right.
right?
Right.
And the demographics of the district is not increasing as rapidly as they thought it was.
Right. Right.
So I have heard them say something about not the 22-23 school year, but maybe the 23-24 school year. So
That's
we
what
have,
we're hoping for. That's kind of
yeah,
what we in our group is. That's what we're pushing for.
yeah. So
So
that's something that you also have to ask them, what can you do? You know, you can't put it all on them.
no,
You
Right,
for
know,
sure,
right.
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I also wanted to kind of get a little bit of an education via this meeting now, because we want to be as involved. We want, if there's a subcommittee that we can either sit on or create, we want to do that. You know, there are parents who are, I mean, this is like the same story in every place in every part of the world, but especially where we are. I mean, many of these people are extremely well, have crazy skill sets and can really make things
No,
happen.
and that's something I brought forward to. That was one of the things I ran on when I ran for school board. You know, there's people in this community that are amazing, and we don't use them.
Yeah, and they want. I mean, it's from what I'm talking to people about. They want to be tapped into. This is something that they are actually, directly affected by. And so,
I
I
little
have
one.
sent a few emails um, to Shayna just prior to the meeting on the 18th that I went to, and she wasn't super responsive. So I was kind of like, well, how do we get responses? Because I understand that this is a lot. This is only one issue in so many others that they're talking about. But how do we get some
All right.
movement or even just
One
answers?
clue is, don't write to public comments at Lower Merion lmsd.org only. Specifically write to,
We've been doing that. Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And
And to Dr. Mumeen also. Yeah. Yeah.
perfect.
We're trying to
So,
really cover our bases. Yeah.
okay.
All
So
right. Thank you.
I'm gonna stop recording now because I think we've covered a lot. But I'll stay on with you if you have any other questions. So thank you guys for doing this on this beautiful day. And this is recorded, and it is shareable. It'll go up on the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to share it with friends, family, relatives, so they kind of know what's happening and how to
Thank you.
primary election. All right. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.